Hello, it's Molly Reamer with Bridget's Grove, and this little video is a note of encouragement for those participating in Living the Questions. And it is inspired by someone in our Facebook group, hi Dominique, who asked or who commented on feeling scratchy and uncomfortable with some of the questions that this class raises. And I wanted to make a video to speak to that sensation of scratchy uncomfortableness, to honor it, to hold space for it, and to let it in because it's real. And my observation in offering Living the Questions in the past has been that it has this sounds bad, but it has one of the lowest participation rates of anything that I offer. And I have actually surmised that it's because it it's hard. It raises questions that we maybe don't want to look at. Maybe we don't want the answers to. Maybe it brings up stuff for us that feels scratchy, uncomfortable, and uncertain. And so I think people let it go sometimes, or maybe don't make space for it because it's not necessarily feel good. And so I am here to offer a note of encouragement and also like validation for that feeling, because I think the first thing to note is that this is meant for you. This is meant for you to engage with in the way that works for you. So if all you want to do is hold one of those questions in your awareness in the day, the week, the month, the year, that's fine. Like this is not an assignment. There's not a process. You're not going to be graded. You're not going to be evaluated. And so while I definitely encourage you to make room in your life for the questions, I definitely encourage you to listen and to respond and to participate as best you can. There is no assignment and there is no right way. So if you don't feel like exhaustive journaling, that's completely fine and you can move on. So the last thing that I want is for anyone to get stuck and feel like they're not allowed to move on to the next step because they didn't finish the first one. Scrap that, throw that out. If you don't listen to one of the audios or if you don't want to do the questions, pick back up the next week with whatever shows up the next week and trust that that's okay. Like, trust that that's okay. So I hold space for both things, both encouragements. Love it if you make space to engage. I think it'll be a rich experience for you. I think you will be nourished and fed by allowing yourself the space. So I encourage you to allow yourself the space. And at the same time, if the space isn't there, chuck it and move straight on to the next thing. And don't let yourself spin your wheels or get bogged down by the sensation of being behind or the sensation of missing out. Start with where you are with what you have right now and let that be enough. Trust that that's enough and trust that for yourself. So that was the one thing I wanted to say. The other thing I wanted to say is that this is a reflective process. This is a process of inquiry. This is a discovery process, an uncovering process, an exploratory process, an evolving process, a living process. It is not about finding answers. It's not about the key, unlocking the way. And it's about dropping in, about pausing and reflecting. It is not leading you to an answer. So if you want an answer, or if you want assurance that you've got it figured out or that this is the right thing, that's not what you're going to find. And that can be scratchy and uncomfortable. And it can be hard to acknowledge because we want things to be a little tidier. We want things to be a little easier. We want things to have a neat bow tied around them. And we want to know that we're doing it right. And that's not what I can offer or what this is about. And so, so it doesn't promise fixes. I had to write some notes about this. I was thinking about this morning because I actually liked the question of the scratchy and uncomfortable. It reminded me of in red tents when people start to cry. I always have this little inner sensation. I mean, I don't want to make people cry. That's not my goal. But when I see someone start to cry, I have that inward sensation of that means this is working. That means it's working, like it's doing its work. And that's how I felt about the scratchy, uncomfortable question too, or commentary, is that that means it's working. Like if you didn't feel anything, if you didn't feel challenged in some way, if you felt like, oh yeah, I got this all figured out, I already know all the answers, that means it's not working. So feeling scratched and uncomfortable actually means it's working. Like it's doing the job. It's doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's at work in your life. So it's not bad. And so the other thing, this is not going to provide you with answers, and it's not going to promise provide you with fixes, and it's also not going to do the work for you. Like the work is yours. It's your own work. It's your own private work, and you'll get out of it what you can get out of it, and you can take what you are interested in, take what speaks to you, and leave the rest behind. Like it does not have to be, it's not all or nothing. It's not exhaustive. And but what it is, it's an opportunity to explore and uncover, and hopefully it can provide a doorway for you in harmonizing your values with your action and of marrying what you say you want with what you're actually doing and providing the opportunity for reconciling those two pieces of your life, what you say you want and then what you're actually experiencing. And how do we bring those into unity, harmony, practice? And so the other thing I wanted to point out is that we live in a very fragmentary world. Our attention is very jumpy. It's our actual brain functioning is impacted by the pull of social media, by the use of cell phones, etc. And those are not, I'm not here to demonize social media. Like I value the connections that are formed there and the opportunity to share my work there too. However, there's the fragmentary, jumpy component of look here, look here, look here, look here, look here, that encourages a very surface level of engagement, a very low, a very incomplete level of digging in to something. And so and also it discourages inquiry and encourages this quick fixes and systematization, finding the answer, the fix, the doing it right, and suggests, a lot of social media suggests, if you do X, you will get Y. It makes a promise of if this, then you will get this, or then you'll be fixed forever, and like I am susceptible as anyone to that sensation that when I finally figure it out, it'll be permanently figured out. It'll be easy from that point forward. I will have finally, I've got it. I've cracked the code. I've solved the puzzle. I've got the answer. And that's not life. That's not how life is. And so we can love our lives. We can savor our lives. We can nourish our spirits, but we are unlikely to crack the code. It's okay. So, 10-step processes. Oh, yeah, the other thing I wanted to say is about the social media climate kind of has a tendency to assume personal failure rather than systemic failure. So when people can't just click their fingers and boom, change, or the solution is like right here, that uh, there's no, that's not liberating. That's not like I'd like to be liberated from that sensation that there's a fix, that there's a 10-step process. And if you do it right, boom, you got it. And if you didn't do it right, it's a personal failure. There's a lot of factors that are in our lives that conspire to nourish us or deplete us. And there's a lot of factors competing for our attention. And so I feel like it is okay to hold the unknowing inside. I spoke about that in the first audio. And but this actually goes against the social and cultural grain. It is often also not what we crave. The feeling of holding the unknowing inside can feel icky and sticky and scratchy and uncomfortable. Like, oh, I don't want to not know. I want someone to tell me why. I want someone to tell me how. I want someone to tell me to do. And so I feel like it can be actually liberating to hold that unknowing inside, but it's not necessarily what we crave. We want the answer, we want the fix, we want the how, we want the why. And so, as I noted, I continue to struggle with that urge to fix it, to figure it out, and then everything will be easy. Then I will never feel uncomfortable again. Then I will never feel disappointed or sad or stressed or angry again because I'll have figured out. And that's just, no, everything will still be life and we'll still be here, a part of it together. That's all I can promise is we'll still be here. muddling through it together. And so I hope there's nourishment and encouragement to be found here for you. I hope there's a moment to pause with your inner voice or to start to hear the inner voice again that may have been silenced after long silencing. But I cannot not make promises. I can just ask questions and I can just listen with you. That's what I can do. And yeah, so the other thing I wanted to say is I'll speak of this later in the class as about witnessing without fixing. It's just letting yourself feel what you feel and be where you are. So if it's scratchy and uncomfortable, so be it. It's scratchy and uncomfortable. That's what you feel. And sometimes when you soften into it, it eases. And the other thing I was thinking about the fragmentation of social media and that jumpy attention and how hard it can be to sit through a 10-minute video because this was only supposed to be 5 minutes and now it's 10. And you're like, your attention wanders away. I went out to the woods this morning and I heard as I stepped into the woods, stop the scroll, it takes a toll. And I thought, yeah, it does. It takes a toll on our attention, on our spirits, even on our love and our patience for one another and for the world. And so stop the scroll, it takes a toll. And then the other thing I wanted to acknowledge, so there's many factors that conspire to keep us from turning within, but the companion is that there's a balance there. There can be a seductive element to turning within, to doing inner work. And it can become a substitute for action, growth, and change. So I can't actually do something that I say I want because I'm doing my inner work. See what I mean? So inner work is valuable. Inner work is often denigrated, overlooked, or ignored, or actively discouraged. Like, don't do this inner work. Buy this stuff instead. Do this program. Take this supplement. Do this exercise. Don't do the inner work. Don't even look within. It's too scary to look there. And at the same time, inner work, the balance there is inner work can sometimes become a substitute for action. Oh no, I'm doing my inner work. I have to go within. And then, before you know it, like time has gone by and you haven't actually taken steps towards any of your dreams because you're doing the inner work instead. And so endless self-examination or self-analysis can become a covert kind of perfectionism or even a type of narcissism that prevents you from moving forward and bringing your dreams to life. So I urge balance and discernment, a balance between turning inward and reflecting and listening to what you hear from inside, the scary, the scratchy, the uncomfortable, and also making sure that you're bringing those things into harmony with action. So if you reflect and you realize that your priorities are out of sync with your actions, then choose differently. Take the opportunity to make a change and act differently. And so when I used to teach community organizing, one of the things that came up over and over again was education as a change strategy. And so people would say, we just want people to get educated. We just want people to get educated if we provide more education. And honestly, a lot of times it's not about providing education. We don't necessarily want people to know more. We want them to act differently. And that can be the same for us. We don't necessarily need to know more. We need to act differently to bring our outward expression into harmony with that inner exploration, that inner discovery, those things that we've learned. How do we bring that inner insight forward into expression and into action? So those are the thoughts I have. I don't know if it was actually that encouraging. I meant it to be like, boost, boost. I also meant it to be validation for feeling scratchy and uncomfortable. You're not wrong. You're not bad. You're not silly. You're not weird. You're welcome, just as you are. I did want to offer the encouragement that if you don't feel like answering the questions, you literally never have to write a single thing down to still get something out of participating in this class. You don't have to write a single word to still get something out of it. So participate in the way that feels best for you and hold some tender tension between the scratchy and uncomfortable, the total disconnection and the fragmentation, and getting so slurped into the inner work that you don't actually do anything. So there's all these things. We'll see it as like a tripod, of possibilities. So I wanted to end with a tiny little prayer from my little deck that I created for the next 30 Days of Goddess. And this information will be provided to you in some means through my various ways in which I communicate with people. And so this is the prayer I wanted to leave us with after this partially encouraging note of partial encouragement. And so, yeah, I invite you to just take a minute, one hand to the forehead, one hand to your heart, one hand to your belly. May I breathe in the sweet breeze. May I feel my feet on the earth always spinning and yet holding me steady. May I let the fire in my heart blaze and my spirit shine. May I allow myself to flow like a wild river or a gentle brook or a rhythmic sea. I am my own sacred space. My feet are always on temple ground. Thank you so much for being here.